All right, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. This week we're going to be talking about Quentin Johnston. What makes QJ a risky prospect, and what are the rewards surrounding his game that an NFL offense might want to take the risk on in the first round? So, first with Johnston, the one thing that really stands out to me is how abrupt he is, not only at the line of scrimmage, but en route and after the catch. This is an interesting trait for Johnston because he's 6'3", 208 pounds. So we watch him at the line of scrimmage too. What I like is he can create these really negative angles, kind of hard to see from straight on view, and then snap out of them into different route combinations. Oftentimes with Johnston, it's stated he's not a good route runner. He's not good at the line of scrimmage, but he actually is. He has the underlying qualities to be very good. But like we're going to talk about a lot in this video, we see it in spurts. We don't see it consistently enough to be like, this is a, surefire wide receiver prospect in this class, because he's not. But we see the overarching traits during the line of scrimmage and in route as well. So we see with Johnston too, gets to top of the route, curl stop patterns he's very good on because he's very abrupt. We see the drop in level. That is super, super important with bigger wide receivers. If they want to be successful at selling vertical patterns, we have to see that drop in level really quickly, very sudden in nature if we wanted those guys to ascend to being top receiver prospects, like guys like DeAndre Hopkins, A.J. Brown. That's what makes those guys so great on vertical patterns. It's not because they have this game-breaking speed, because those two guys really don't, but it's their ability to sell these patterns, put these and change them to double moves and do that type of thing as well. So with Johnston, we see the drop in level. And also here we see the body catch. Why is he body catch? That's a big conundrum surrounding Johnston's game. The body catch is really stylistic for Johnston because it helps him transition upfield, A. B, he has trouble hands catching and transitioning from that into being a runner, right? 2 yards after catch. You see him a lot of times. I think a lot of the 8 drops we saw this past season in 2022 at TCU were byproduct of the lack of concentration from point of entry to exit, which is trying to create yards after catch. So that's really a big deal there. In the air as well, I would love to see him more use his wingspan, which is massive, use that extension that he can create with his height and wingspan. But we haven't seen that. And that's a big, question surrounding his game is, can he do that? But we look here after the catch. What we like is as soon as he turns upfield, he is a dangerous runner. Another area where I think he's particularly dangerous is at the line of scrimmage. This is top of the screen, him versus Julius Brent, who's, in my opinion, a second-round cornerback prospect in this class. But what I like is the ability to pause and redirect, right? We see him pause the soft press engagement with Brent, and he's able to get inside of him, right? Top of the screen right here, if you can't see. That's what I love about his game, is he is one of the, in my opinion, one of the best press receivers in this class. He has the highest yards per route run against press out of the big 4 receivers in this class, being Jackson Smith-Njigba, him, Jordan Addison out of USC, and Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Highest yards per route run against press out of the big 4. Reason being is the abruptness that he can show during route after the catch. We see that at the line of scrimmage. One thing I like too is his ability to accelerate out of that. We talk a lot about his 40-yard dash and it being not good enough. We thought he'd run the 4.3s. With a guy at 6'3", 208, it doesn't really matter very much. We want to see play speed. We want to see him accelerate better than guys his size on the field of play. And we see that from Johnston. I see him pull away from a ton of guys at the second and third level. He has better long speed than he does as an early accelerator. But we look here too, just the quickness, the abruptness to get hands off, get into his route, and slant patterns, delayed crossers, easy pitch and catches. That's the part of his game that he succeeds on. And that was a big part of Sonny Dykes' offense at TCU as well. That's what we have to take into account. What was the system that he ran in? We talk about the lineage of poor TCU receivers, Jalen Reagor, Josh Doxson. TCU is not known to showcase a broad, expansive route tree for their receivers. We see with Doxson a lot of vertical patterns when he came out. We see with Jalen Reagor kind of the same tree, very similar to Quentin Johnston, of slants, delayed crossers, screens, just go balls. We see that because the offense that TCU runs isn't a timing-based offense, right? This is not an offense that's going to be, a lot of bang eights and a lot of timing-based middle of field patterns and double moves. We don't see that with TCU. But what we did see and what I loved from Quentin Johnston is how good he was out of the slot. Forced 45 missed tackles over his career. And in my opinion, if he goes in the NFL and is a primary outside receiver from day one, he is being miscast. This is not a immediate alpha X, throw him on the boundary, watch him win. I think he has the ability to be one of the most explosive slot receivers in the league early on in his career, if that's the way an NFL offense chooses to use Johnson, utilize his unique skill set. Reason being is we see here in this game against Kansas, this is where he can win. If you are playing off coverage, you only have middle of the field player right here. We can do whatever we want. We have a two-way go. And with Johnson's ability after the catch with his size, we see one missed tackle. We see two missed tackles. And then we see here, we're at the 44-yard line. He's taking these guys for another 10 yards. This is why I believe Quentin Johnston should be utilized in the slot from day one. NFL evaluators tend to miscast prospects like this and look solely on archetype, solely on size. But Johnston is a big slot, a power slot from day one that can win there because you're not giving him the full menu of routes. He's not used to that yet. You're giving him a two-way go. You're giving him the ability to get the ball in his hands in the middle of the field and create after the catch. That's what he does really, really well. He wins with abruptness, not precision yet. That's not a giant part of his game. The timing element isn't something that we see much from Johnson because he wasn't asked to do that in Sonny Dykes' offense at TCU, right? But also what we also see here is in this game versus Kansas, we saw Johnson post the highest PFF grade of his career. Coincidentally, this was also Johnson's highest slot usage rate of his career. When you watch this game in particular, you see the slot wins. That is why I believe Quentin Johnston is worth the first-round pick, because if you can utilize him in the slot from day one, he's going to do a ton of damage, create a ton of chunks, and the NFL is turning into a chunk league because you're chasing the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is also a team for me at 31. If Johnson's still on the board, which I think he may be, I think he's going to either fall out of the first round or be in that 27 to 31 range. That's a pick I'd like to see them make. So now we talk about, okay, the risk of Johnson. What doesn't he do well? This is the stuff I want to see more. The extension at the catch point. We don't see enough of that from QJ. We see a lot of the body catching, the turning and going to the ground, the corralling of the football. We not enough pluck and tuck, right? So that's a big deal for me when we look at Johnston and how he plays the game. we would like to add in a layer of more nuanced detail at the catch point, because that's something, if you want to be a receiver that wins inside and out, you need that in the NFL. You need to be reliable in contested catch situations, because that's a precision element, especially for, look at high-end receivers like DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown. They have that element to their game that they've established through experience, and that nuance is something that Quentin Johnston doesn't have yet. But that doesn't mean he can't gain it. We see him here extending, plucking the ball out of the air, coming down sideline, 30-plus yard play down the field, right? He has the ability to create chunks like this. However, the inconsistency is what makes him overall really risky. We've seen the few TCU receivers over the past, 6 or so years have little to no success in the NFL. That's one thing I think that gives people pause. I think it's more so the offense and the system that they run there that leaves their receivers, in my opinion, ill-prepared for the NFL. 2, we see the athletic skill set, but we didn't see it in testing. That's a big one for people as well. We haven't seen, this guy is 6'3", 208, and he runs 4.3. No, but we saw a lot of the other stuff that we like. See the broad jump, the vertical. We saw that part of it. We overstate the 40, but that's something that also that gives people some pause about QJ. And the third thing is the mistakes on film, the drops, the sometimes a lack of physicality for his size. Those are the elements that kind of make you think, is this guy going to be successful? And that's the big question mark. In my opinion, on film, he's a top 4 receiver in this class, no matter how you slice it. Highest upside receiver in this whole draft cycle, because you don't see guys at 6'3", 208 who can move like this. This is the rare stuff. This is what you don't see often, and something an NFL offensive coordinator and a wide receiver coach are going to get together and say, I want this guy. I want to get my hands on a prospect like this because this is a moldable ball of clay. Success from year one, if he's not in the slot, he's not going to succeed much from year one, in my opinion. I don't think this is a guy who's going to post, 750-plus yards as a rookie if he's not being utilized in the slot over a 60% clip. I don't think it's going to happen. However, if I'm a dynasty manager and he's falling into that 108-plus range, I'm taking a stab at him, because I think this is a prospect that has that wide receiver 1 type of ceiling to him. I don't think Jordan Addison has that. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be a guy that has that, but more of that 8 to 12 range, from wide receiver 1 range, I should say, but back end wide receiver 1. Just because stylistically he's a 130 catch guy almost, I would say, in the NFL, kind of like a Keenan Allen type. But a guy like Johnson to me is either going to be a producer similar to A.J. Brown, or he's going to be a producer similar to Chase Claypool, more of a boom bust type prospect. That's the tough thing about him, is we don't know which way that's going to go. But if you're okay with the risk, I think he's a guy who's impressive enough, who has the physical capabilities to be a high-end wide receiver 1 in the NFL. And I think the risk is warranted, but the reward is also there and very prevalent. Thanks again for watching. Really, really appreciate it. Like, subscribe. Go check out Angelo Analysis. It has Johnson's breakdown on it. I'll pop that below as well in the description section. And go check out my Twitter at Angelo_fantasy. Thanks again. Looking forward to doing more of these.